Welcome to a very special edition of the Section 247 show, presented as always by Michael's Glass Company. 215-338-3293 for all your glass needs. I am the doc. I am joined by special guest from the Deliberation Room, formerly the Deliberation Room. He has a certificate of scouting authenticity, if that's what we're going to call it, from the New York Football Giants. Please welcome to the program, the savant of draft football, Brett Halpern. Brett, how are we today?
Doing well, Mike. How you doing?
Do
I have to call you Doc? Or
you don't have to call me Doc. You can call me Mike. People have called me much worse, so it's not really a big deal.
You don't say.
Yeah, it's true. So the fans were asking for this program. Everyone kept saying, "Hey, what are you guys going to do a mock draft show?" And I said, I don't have anybody that I can really do it with. And you were sending me some stuff, and I'm like, here it is, light bulb. Let's do it. Let's do the mock draft. Some background. We used to watch the draft for days on end. It was one of my favorite things in the world when it was Saturdays and Sunday, where we hunker in at 11 o'clock, watch the draft straight on through to 8 o'clock, and then back the next day on Sunday. You, not me, but did a lot of analysis. So that's why you're here.
Well, thank you. I remember vividly us sitting there watching it, and I would say around the tail end of the second quarter, back in the Saturday format. But that's when we would start to fade a little bit. You need a little food. Then we would get going in the third round because that's when the picks started to come quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But there would be a definite period of fading. So.
But it was fun. Do you like that format, the back-to-back Saturday, Sunday, better than the setup that it is now?
I miss the Saturday, Sunday format. What I do not like is Thursday alone. I really love Friday night rounds 2 and 3. That I enjoy a lot. So
there's more to it when it's rounds 2 and 3. It's a little bit better of a program.
I would also say generally, I think that the NFL, obviously this year is different. And the other thing I just want to quickly mention, shout out to all first responders, all EMTs, people on the front lines going through this really difficult time. And my deepest sympathies to anyone who's lost someone during this unthinkable tragedy that we're going through. And I'm glad that we're able to do the show to provide some levity during the time. But anyways, going back to what I was going to say. I think the NFL up until this year has done a great job of creating an event out of the draft. Like without question, even though I thought Nashville was cool, the Dallas thing, set aside everybody's feelings about Dallas. In the stadium, it didn't work, particularly coming off.
That's true.
The draft from Philly, that was just magical. The perfect weather, the perfect scene. That was, to me, the coolest thing I've ever seen. Chicago was okay. It was great in Philly. It was really good in Nashville. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I guess what they were going to do here in Vegas sounded strange with the boat and everything else.
I was waiting for the guys from Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 13. I choose not to acknowledge 12.
The other one doesn't exist.
Yeah. I was hoping for them to show up and steal a diamond or something like that. But
that'd be a good idea.
I really wish they would have. I get that you can't have all these people in a room, but when it was first announced with the change, I was hoping for them to go back to a hotel and have a bunch of guys just sitting there like it used to be. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out.
Did you hear that today they had a little bit of a glitch for the mock draft? Yeah. So
wait for Russia to hack the whole damn thing. Not that we don't get into pop. No, we don't get into.
That's an entirely different podcast.
That's a different one. We don't do it here. Real quick before we get started. We're going to do it. We're going to do the rundown like we do on a normal show. This is a special show, but coming up this week, this will drop exclusively, as you see up there in the corner, on YouTube on Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. We're going to follow that up by the regular show Tuesday night, 9:30, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at SEC247 show. We're going to do an Eagles live reaction coming up on Thursday, and we're going to follow that up with you and I having a little bit of another interaction and taking a look at the whole draft sometime in the next week or so when it's actually over, because, we have to wait till next Sunday.
That is true, and I will be honored to come back, as I am honored to join you on this show.
All right, so here's the rundown. Here's how we're going to do this. It's a mock draft. It's pretty simple. I'm going to be like Roger Goodell. Who else? What was Jack Tunney? I'm going to make the announcement. I'm going to say the first pick in the 2020 Section 247 mock draft. Cincinnati is on the clock. So, and then you're going to pick, and we're going to talk about it.
Excellent.
All right. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, so with the first pick, Cincinnati is going to be drafting Joe Burrow, the quarterback from LSU, 6'3", 221 pounds. He's former Mr. Ohio. Mike, I don't know if you know this. His father was an assistant coach at Ohio University.
I did not know that.
Bobcats. It's an amazing school. Go Bobcats.
Go Bobcats.
Wonderful female lacrosse program. They have amazing alumni. Nevertheless, he attended Ohio State, where he actually was beat out by Dwayne Haskins, transferred down to LSU. I think, Mike, what's really amazing is if we had this discussion about Burrow last year, he's a late-round pick. Joe Brady comes in, who's now the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers with Matt Rule, and helps him with his mechanics. And, as you know, Burrow just had probably the best single-season performance of any quarterback ever in the NCAA. They're for 60 touchdown passes. I looked it up. Something that we should probably tell the audience. The audience probably knows with you, myself as well, we're both Rutgers fans. So Burrow threw for 60 touchdowns. During the last 4 years, Rutgers had 82 touchdowns. And most of them were in the first game of the year against the New Mexicos and the Morgan States and Howard. So just to put that in perspective, how amazing of a year it was. He does not have the biggest arm, but he has accuracy. He's athletic enough to manipulate the pocket, extend plays, and he's got moxie. You saw it. I think the first time you saw it was against Texas when they went down there earlier in the season. Big play. It was a third down in the fourth quarter. Climbed up the pocket, hit Justin Jefferson, who Eagles fans, don't worry, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. Hit him for a touchdown. This guy, there's the great picture of him in the locker room smoking the cigar afterwards.
Yeah, I love that picture.
He's not cocky the way I find Baker Mayfield to be, but he's got enough of it to be a leader as a quarterback.
A little bit of an edge.
Yeah, a little bit of an edge. You
kind of have to have that. And it's good that you bring up Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield has a lot of moxie too, but he's also an idiot. So That's where the difference comes in. I mean, could it be anyone else here other than Joe Burrow at number one? Or Cincinnati that stupid that they would go in another direction or trade out?
I don't think so, except, look, and we're going to get to it shortly. If this were a different year, if teams had more access to Tua Tagovailoa, I wonder if having that access would dispel any of the concerns regarding his injury. Because frankly, if he doesn't have that hip injury, I have him as quarterback one. But because of the hip injury, I put Burrow as quarterback one and Tagovailoa as quarterback two. Either way, I think you're getting, at minimum, a solid starting quarterback. I don't see bust potential with Burrow. Is he going to be a top three quarterback? I don't know. I've seen some comparisons to Aaron Rodgers. I think that's because of the improvisational skills. He does not have that kind of arm. It's not a Chad Pennington noodle, but it's not a rocket. He's definitely worth the number one pick, though.
Cincinnati 2-14 last year on the year. Their offensive efficiency ranking 30th in National Football League, overall ranking 31st. You can't get much worse than that.
That's pretty bad. That's why they're picking number one.
Exactly. You beat me to it. Next on the clock, picking number two, hail to the Redskins.
Yes.
3-13. The Washington Redskins are on the clock. Who do you have the Redskins taking here?
I think the Redskins have the easiest job in the world. If this was a normal draft, they would just have someone quickly run up to the stage or wherever they go to hand in the card. Hopefully the Russians or someone else do not choose to hack the computer system at this time. It's going to be Chase Young, defensive end from Ohio State. He is the top player in the draft. I'd liken him to Myles Garrett, but without the injury concerns. Because you remember, Myles Garrett had an ankle issue. Some people were questioning the drive and everything else at the time. Chase Young is actually a cleaner prospect than Myles Garrett, in my opinion. Guy had 16 and a half sacks and was suspended for several games, including the Rutgers game.
Yeah, so you can't say, look, he had 10 sacks against Rutgers and it inflated his number. It didn't happen, people.
Exactly. This is not like 07 OC Umenyiora against Winston Justice. So wanted to give a little throwback there. But anyways, what I really like about Chase Young, he is an elite athlete, has great bend. I think I'm going to talk about what he needs to work on simply because there's so much that he's good at. Because if you listen to most people, they're just going to gush over him, which they should. I think he could add a few more tools to his repertoire in terms of pass rush. He relies on the athleticism. He could develop a few more counter moves. He could be more stout against the run. I think that's probably the main difference between him and Nick Bosa. I actually think he's a better pass rusher than Nick was at this point last year. He's probably not quite as strong against the run, but I also think his ceiling might be higher because of the athleticism. So Washington is really, if you think about it, they're going to have a really strong defensive line. They got Montez Sweat last year. Inside, you have Matt Ioannidis from Temple, and you have the 2 Alabama first-round picks, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. So they really are going to have a strong – and plus they have Ryan Kerrigan. So that's a really strong unit, to have for the next several years.
A lot of changes going on in Washington. It's going to be real interesting to see. Washington has a real coach now. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see if the ownership can get out of the way and let the Redskins kind of do something. Look, I still think they're the bottom barrel of the NFC East, but they're going to be better. It's going to be competitive.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think Dwayne Haskins showed you something towards the end. He had a decent game against the Eagles.
He did. He had a really good game.
Yeah. He brought him back to forced overtime against the Giants. Look, I think the Giants and the Redskins are the bottom of the division. I think that they will both, prove their ineptitude at different points of the season. But I think that adding the top player of the draft is always a good way to build a team, particularly at a position that most people would say is one of the top 3 positions of importance in a football team as a pass rusher.
I would agree there, and we'll get to that when we get to that. Washington ranks in their defensive efficiency ranking according to ESPN 27. Overall, their ranking is 32. They can only go up from there.
Yep.
We're going to move on to the number 3 pick in the draft, coming in at 13, 12, and 1. The Detroit Lions, the Fighting Matt Patricias. Oh boy, man, they did not have a good time last year. Who do you have Detroit taking?
The Detroit Lions will be selecting Jeff Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State. I think he's probably the number 2 prospect in all of the draft. I've heard draft pundits rate him as the highest graded cornerback since Jalen Ramsey, even going back to Patrick Peterson. This guy really is – he's an elite athlete, but silky smooth. He is an absolute tactician. I think that in Detroit, he's going to play the role that Stephon Gilmore played in New England under Matt Patricia. When looking at the Lions, though, I think what bothers – look, this is a great pick. Besides the fact that I'm making – if you end up with Jeff Okudah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's a great pick. That's a win. But in terms of moving forward, I think the thing is, look, I'd love to have Jeff Okudah and Darius Slay. I don't know why, they got rid of him. Apparently there was some tension there with Patricia. Supposedly he even told Slay, like, you're not at that level of the other elite cornerbacks.
Yeah.
I think Slay's going to prove a lot of people wrong this year in Philly. So,
well, we could get to that when we roll around. When we roll around to a league preview, if we have a season this year. Yeah. But look, this is a very much I don't want to say a Belichickian type pick, but it's a type of pick that I could see New England making, and then Patricia he's obviously a disciple there. I think that people in Detroit need to give him a little bit more time.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has that time, but we'll see.
But he was a rocket scientist.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true. He did lose a Super Bowl, by the way.
He did.
Right.
Congrats.
Yes. Moving on. Pick number 4. This one is very important to you. 4-12 last year. The New York Football Giants. Offensive efficiency ranking 25th. Defense 28th. Special teams 17. Overall, ESPN has them the 29th team in the National Football League, which is why they are drafting number 4. Who are the New York Football Giants taking?
Well, I'd like to apologize to the New York Giant fan base, but they are going to be going offensive tackle and drafting Jedrick Wills, the offensive tackle from Alabama. So I think now is probably just a good time to. There are 4 top offensive tackles. The way I have them rated are Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, and Andrew Thomas, which is obviously why I have Wills coming off the board first at number 4. Look, to me, the Giants, they could clearly pick Isaiah Simmons here. Isaiah Simmons is a rare talent, has rare athleticism. But for reasons still beyond my comprehension, you drafted a running back at number 2 in 2017. You drafted the guy that you want to replace Eli Manning last year, who I believe performed better than I anticipated. You have to protect him. Nate Solder was a disastrous pick. I think they overpaid for him. He didn't play. He's not playing well. Their other tackles, Cam Fleming. You need to build the offensive line. Jedrick Wills, I believe, is the top offensive tackle in this draft. He played right tackle at Alabama. So technically, he was actually protecting Tua's blind side because Tua's a lefty. He is really great feet. I believe he ran like a 5.05 5.40, which is really moving well. But if you saw his drills, just really clean, great hand placement, and he's nasty. He wants to finish the block. He wants the defender to end up on the ground underneath him, which is why I have him over Tristan Wirfs, who I'll talk about a little later. But to me, that's why. Unless Dave Gettleman, who I'm frankly not a fan of, unless he believes that Isaiah Simmons is a Hall of Famer, then I believe you owe it to the offensive pieces you've invested in to draft offensive tackle. That's my belief.
I agree with you. Look, it's not going to be a sexy pick. It's probably going to get shredded on WFAN. It's going to get shredded on the ESPN station up there. It's not going to be popular.
Yeah.
But you take the Eagles, for example. When they drafted Lane Johnson, he's still there. He's their cornerstone at tackle. You need that player. You need that player. You need that type of protection. I think it's a very wise decision if this is the direction that the Giants were going to go. That being said, as an Eagles fan, I hope they blow the whole thing. But I think this is a wise direction, and Giants fans, don't get all worked up. We're not going to see the video of that one dude flipping out anymore because nobody's going to be there unless they zoom it in. So
you should have seen me when they announced Daniel Jones. To me, it was really bad. Just about Daniel Jones, real quick. Last year, they had different snippets on ESPN. Oh, in high school he was All-American and this and that. And when Daniel Jones was drafted, the only thing they mentioned, I believe, was like his brother or sister played. I think it was sister, like plays field hockey at Davidson. Yeah. Like, oh, well, that's great.
What's Davidson's mascot?
Oh my God, that's a good question.
I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't know. Mascot. I don't know.
You know what? I feel really badly. I used to know.
Were they the Blue Jays?
I don't think so because they're red.
Oh, well, you never know anymore.
You never know. I mean, maybe a Blue Jay because I'm thinking of Steph Curry's uniform.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
They do, yes.
Gender identity issues. Moving on before we go down the road. Look, I think that the Giants would be, like I said, the Giants would be wise here to protect the quarterback. I agree with you that the Saquon Barkley pick. Look, you build around your quarterback in the National Football League. Great player. I mean, great player,
great kid, great player.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing to complain about him.
I hold nothing against him from 6 years ago. He can move. He can do what he needs to do. A tremendous player to watch. but the Giants would be smart here to protect their assets.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. Miami Dolphins picking number 5. They were 5-11 last year. I didn't realize they won 5 games. Offensive efficiency ranking 24, defensive 30, special teams 22. We're just going to throw out special teams. Nobody's picking a kicker in the first round unless you're Oakland or Las Vegas.
Tampa drafted Aguayo in the second. I forgot.
Yeah. So overall ranking according to ESPN at 30. Who do you have the Miami Dolphins selecting here?
I have the Miami Dolphins selecting Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback from Alabama. This guy has been on the NFL's radar for a very long time, as well as fans. I mean, that's why in the beginning of last season, there was the term tank for Tua.
Yeah.
I mean, as you remember, it came in that magical second half in the national championship game as a freshman and won the game, beat Georgia. I believe his ceiling is Drew Brees.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if
that's kind of ironic. That's kind of ironic for the Dolphins fans.
I know, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I mean, obviously a little shorter, so that there's that similarity to Drew Brees, but he has great instincts, very accurate thrower, very elusive. He's a little bit more athletic than Burrow. You know, but then I think you have to talk about the injuries. And is he going to change his game at all to protect himself? So I think that's one of the main concerns moving forward. But he is definitely the kind of quarterback. He is a good enough prospect for the 5th pick, even with the injury concerns, in my estimation, to build your team around for years to come.
It's interesting. Miami is in desperate need of a quarterback. That's the best thing I can say about this pick is this is, to me, is one of the early storylines of the draft. It's not Joe Burrow going 1 or anything else. It's where is Tua going? And look, I mean, it could be worse. He could go somewhere else, like Los Angeles.
Well, so here's the interesting thing about this. So this is, you know, when you had asked me to do this, you wanted me to choose and select players based upon what I would do. Now, if you read the reports out there, supposedly Miami wants Justin Herbert. And, you know, not to completely give it away, I have Herbert going in the first round, but not this high. And I think it would be a mistake for Miami to choose Herbert over Tua, unless it just comes down to the fact they just do not believe he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to look at the medicals. Look, that injury was very similar to Bo Jackson's. It ended Bo Jackson's football career.
Yep.
He was never the same baseball player after that. Now, granted, that was almost 30 years ago, so science has changed, but you don't want to draft a quarterback at 5 and have him be injury prone, because
that's a problem.
Then it's a wasted pick.
Yep. Then you're going to be drafting a number 5 for years to come.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Moving on. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers, 5-11 a year ago. Again, I'm surprised they won 5 games. 16th ranked offense. They weren't horrible.
Yeah.
They weren't great. They're kind of a mediocre team. 23 in defense, 20th overall ranking according to ESPN. Who do you have the Bolts taking this year, their first pick?
Is it me, or do you have a hard time saying the Los Angeles Chargers?
When I was creating the graphics to this, I put San Diego.
Okay, all right, just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So I have the Chargers,
I know the tradition of them starting in LA, and I think it's kind of cool. They brought back the old logo, but they play in the StubHub Center or the Home Depot Pavilion, whatever it's called, in front of 20,000 opposing fans. It's awful. Just go back to the Murph. Come on.
It's pretty bad that you and I, our senior year, so for those who don't know, Mike played at Cherry Hill West, I played at Cherry Hill East. Our senior year game almost drew as many people as the Chargers do at the StubHub Center.
Exactly.
And that's not because either of our teams were any good.
We were awful. I still got the helmet back there.
So Los Angeles Chargers selecting Isaiah Simmons, linebacker. I honestly think he's the first guy you could literally just call hybrid from Clemson. So to me, he's the ultimate chess piece. So he is 6'4", 238, ran a 4.3, 940 at the combine. He has played middle linebacker. I believe he's mainly going to be an outside linebacker. Plays safety, can play slot corner. My question is, he has the ability to do all these things, but is he truly great at any of them? That's my one concern, and that was my one concern evaluating him as a potential pick for the Giants 2 slots earlier. But if you look at personnel, pairing him with Derwin James, the Chargers, now, I mean, if you think about out west, the amount of speed that you're going to need to contain different teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens, I think that's really creating an excellent defense. You look at the roster of the Chargers, I think it's a multi-year process for, I've heard that they are comfortable with Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback. We'll see. I think that I do think you need to add a quarterback. But again, this is what I would do. And with Tua gone, there's no one at 6 that I would want. And if I'm staying this pick, I'm going to add this ultimate chess piece, this Swiss Army knife, and have, defensive coordinator is going to lick his chops because you could use him so many different ways. So
could this be a scenario where they trade out, you think?
I've heard, let's go back to last pick. If the Dolphins are dumb enough to take Herbert, Tua makes a lot of sense here.
He absolutely does.
I'd be ecstatic. If it's Herbert, then you got to say, look, do you like Herbert? Is maybe Jordan Love worth it towards the end of the first round? And so at that point, I think it might be worth trading down.
Look, we live in a new world. It's the National Football League is about offense, but defense still wins championships. It's just how it is. I think you build around certain defensive players, and this is the kind of guy that you can build around.
Yeah,
it would be a nice pick for all 15 fans.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 7, the Carolina Panthers, a team in flux. Matt Rule from Baylor by way of Temple, by way of the New York Giants, is the new head coach. They have gotten rid of Cam Newton. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater, who, look, I have the utmost respect for. I saw the guy win a game at a broken foot, minus the fact that Rutgers got ripped off on a bad penalty. That's neither here nor there.
I had my eyes closed for it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. you definitely did. Carolina 5-11 a year ago. At the downside on the offense, they were 28th. They were ranked 28th defensively, 27th overall. Who do you have the Panthers taking?
I have Carolina taking CJ Henderson, cornerback from Florida. I believe he is the clear-cut number 2 corner. Supposedly there are teams that actually have him above Okudah. He's a great athlete. He is 6'1", 204, ran a 4.39 40. There are times I think he got beat at Florida simply because he relied so much on his athleticism. He was trying to goad quarterbacks and bait them by holding off a little bit on the receivers. But he has the prototypical size, and you're going to see that with some of the other corners drafted later in the first round that I've selected. But I think you think about who is now in the NFC South. You have Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan. Panthers lost James Bradbury to the Giants. Decent cornerback, we'll see. But nevertheless, they had a glaring hole there at corner. There's definitely a few other ways they could go, but that is the NFC South is now a passing league, and you're going to need guys to cover. So for me, that's why CJ Henderson, who I believe I think this is probably maybe the ceiling as to where he could go in the draft, but he's good enough that it still makes sense. If you follow what I'm saying. But after CJ Henderson, I believe there's a sizable gap between the second cornerback and whomever you have rated as third. So to me, that's why this made sense. I also think that another thing that we need to think about when looking at these drafts, some of these teams that are picking this high, we're evaluating Tua, we're evaluating Joe Burrow. Let's not, forget who the quarterback is coming out next year with Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, who I think probably next to Andrew Luck will be graded as the highest prospect ever at quarterback. And you also have Justin Fields from Ohio State, so who would probably be some may view him as the top 2 quarterback this year as well. So I think Carolina is one of those teams that might be positioning themselves. I don't want to call it tanking, but building to have a spot for Trevor Lawrence.
They're trusting their process is what they're doing.
Yes, there you go. That's a good Philly term. I like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Forgive me, I forgot about that.
Let's move on. Number 8, Arizona Cardinals, 5-10-1. Offensive efficiency 13th, defensive efficiency 31st, overall ranking 26th. Who do you have the Cardinals taking?
I have the Cardinals selecting Derrick Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. So if this were several weeks ago, I would tell you that they're going to draft one of the top wide receivers. However, thankfully for the Cardinals fans, there's a person named Bill O'Brien that exists. And the Cardinals are one of several teams that were able to fleece him, and now they have DeAndre Hopkins. So that need is not as pressing. I think maybe they still might get someone in the later rounds. They have a lot of receivers now to go play that air raid that Kingsbury runs. So that's why I went defense, Derrick Brown. I think you have someone there. Derrick Brown, to me, when I watched him play, reminded me of Ndamukong Suh at Nebraska.
Okay, wow.
So if you look at him, somewhat limited athletically, not going to wow you like other D tackle prospects. I mean, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, 6'5", 326. He was actually a little bigger. Ran a 5.16 40, which that guy's moving, but it's not elite athleticism. But he's strong. He's got a motor. There are highlights of this guy chasing down running backs 30 yards downfield, and as you recall, as a former lineman, myself as a former lineman, that takes a lot of effort. And for a guy like that to do that in the SEC is very impressive. I don't think he is as refined as a pass rusher, similar to Suh, because Suh, you don't really view Suh as a pass rusher.
No, he's not. Yeah.
He's going to he's going to collapse the pocket. He's going to bull rush you. But you don't think he's not Aaron Donald in that sense.
Right.
But, to get a guy like Ndamukong Suh, the 8th pick, plus you think about it, that's going to allow him to perhaps take up blockers and even open up more for, I like to call him John Jones' brother, Chandler Jones. So, most people just refer to him as Chandler Jones. But anyways, with Chandler having, I think he had like 19 sacks this past season. So, you're just going to build that defensive line. I thought maybe they might go offense, but I think they have enough faith in their offensive tackles right now that this is the pick to make.
Hopefully Chandler Jones stays away from the stuff that John Jones can't stay away from. Allegedly.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly. Let's move on. Number 9, Tony Khan, AEW's Jacksonville Jaguars, 6-10 a year ago. They traded one of their quarterbacks. It's Minshew Mania. Who do you see Jacksonville taking? And have you watched AEW? Give me your quick thoughts on that. I know that this is a football mock draft, but we have to mention it. We were able to slide a wrestling reference in. Let's
totally fine. Absolutely. Yes, I have watched AEW. I am probably not as much a fan as you are. I think it's okay to me. I get the feel of the late stages of Monday Nitro.
Oh, geez, okay. Just make the pick. We're moving on. We'll do it another.
Look. First, the first episode and the big reveal is Jake Hager. Yeah, it was look, good wrestling. There's very good wrestling on it, so I'll give you that.
All right. So can they pick better football players than they can wrestlers? That's the question.
I believe so. I hate to say it. Tom Coughlin was a disaster as an executive for the Jaguars. This team is in complete chaos. I don't know if you saw today, Yannick Ngakoue was literally fighting with the cons on Twitter.
Yes, I saw that.
I mean, did everything short of curse them out. Right. So this team is in complete flux. Anyone who was at the core of that AFC Championship game run is now gone or miserable there. So they really need to start over. I have them taking Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. This is an incredibly safe pick.
Oh, yeah.
Tristan Wirfs is incredibly athletic, lit it up at the combine, ran a 4.85, had an amazing vertical. The kid was a state champion, I believe it was shot putter, and the state champion wrestler. Now, particularly in the state, coming from Iowa, that's impressive. Broke Brandon Scherf's powerlifting records while at the school. The thing is, particularly for a guy who was a wrestler in high school, he doesn't have that nasty, which is why I had rated Jedrick Wills ahead of him. But this is a guy who's incredibly clean. Look, as you know, guys from Iowa are well coached, Kirk Ferentz and everything else. So they end up being good pros. He's going to be, at minimum, a solid starter, whether it be right tackle, left tackle. He's susceptible to inside moves. I think he's best suited for a zone scheme. But I think you're able to move Cam Robinson into guard and have him a tackle. And it's a good building block because, honestly, I think the Jaguars are going to be picking in the top 10 to 15 for the next few years as they undo the disaster that was the crotchety and crabby Tom Coughlin era. Because he was pissed off at the Giants, forced him out. Yeah, it was a nightmare. I'm amazed Doug Marrone kept his job, by the way.
That is true. There was rumors that Doug Marrone was going to lose his job, and those rumors had Doug Marrone circling around Piscataway in an airplane, and for a little while there. Thank God that didn't happen. Yes. But you can't go wrong picking an offensive lineman from Iowa. You can't really go wrong picking an offensive lineman from most Big Ten schools. Some. That's true. Some you can. We'll get to them.
The only one was Robert Gallery. Remember him?
Yeah, I do remember him. Oh my God, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. Drafting 10. I mean, holy, what happened here? They're not drafting in the top 5. That's pretty impressive.
It is, but when you look at the talent on that team, it actually is, to me, a problem that they're drafting 10th. This team should have been better.
They should have been better. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room there right now, and that's the new uniform. Do you like it or not?
That uniform, yes. I was gonna go on a rant when we reached another team that unveiled theirs today.
Oh, we'll get talk to that, about that's awful. Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad that the Browns returned to their classic uniform. I've also heard that they're trying to incorporate in the Cardiac Kids orange pants, which would be nice. I don't mind the brown with the orange. It's okay occasionally, but I think this may even serve them well. You look good, you play good, and there's no one look good in that old uniform, not the most recent uniform of the Browns. So
do they trade Odell Beckham Jr. or is he on the team come the beginning of the season?
I believe he's on the team in the beginning of the season. I had heard the Vikings rumors. I don't think that made sense from a cap perspective for Minnesota. So I would roll with them. And this is why for the 10th pick, I would draft Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. I think when, they got all these sexy pieces, the Browns, and they forgot you need someone to block and keep Baker Mayfield upright. It's amazing, though, that in spite of that offensive line, Nick Chubb ran as well as he did. Sure. So you're bringing in a guy who literally can, if he were to cannonball into Lake Erie, might flood the entire city. I mean, he actually, I believe he will immediately be the second largest human being in the NFL. I think Trent Brown still will top it, but I mean, the guy's 6'7", 364 pounds.
It's a big man.
This sounds like a 1980s era WWE villain that Hulk Hogan was supposed to wrestle.
Yeah, Vince McMahon's all over this guy. If he doesn't make it in the NFL,
yeah, that's true.
You got a spot in Titan Towers.
He carries the weight very well. Ran a 5'1" 40, but then I think blew his hammy, so he was out the rest of the combine. What you see with him is that when he gets his hands on you, it's over. People literally, you will watch tape and see other human beings fly in directions that they did not want to go, simply because Mr. Becton wanted him to go that way, which is very impressive. The problem is he's still very raw, and when he gets tired, he starts bending. The other problem, the thing that I do worry about the most, he has a tendency to grab as opposed to keeping his hands tight, which I like to call the Eric Flowers hug. And that's a little bit problematic. I haven't heard anything regarding coachability issues. Now, supposedly he was flagged for, I don't know if you heard about this, for a test. So that might affect it. But, I mean, they're with the new CBA and everything regarding, I don't see it as much of an issue.
So the rumor and innuendo, as some people like to say, is that it was
Yes.
a little bit of the marijuana. He was hitting the bud. It's not gonna matter. It doesn't matter because that, like you said, in the CBA, it's not ruled out, but it's not what it was. We're advancing as a civilization, I guess.
Yeah. So so just real quick, I think that if you look at Cleveland's offseason, the fact that they added Jack Conklin at right tackle, it allows Mekhi to come in at left tackle. And now you're really going to be able to protect Baker. This is the year that there's no more excuses.
Right.
He has to deliver. I think they need to make the playoffs or you move on from Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it's definitely put up or shut up time for him.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on. Number 11, the New York Jets, 7-9 a year ago. They're the Jets.
I have dear family members who I have to counsel because of their Jet fandom. And, look, I think that you drafted Sam Darnold. It's very similar. It's a similar story to the Giants. You got to protect them. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for them, as I had mentioned, there's 4 top tackles. The 4th one is still available. They're drafting Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. He probably has the lowest ceiling of the 4, but may have the highest floor. Kid came in as a freshman, started at Georgia, which is very impressive. Not as much of an athlete as the other 3, limited that way, but has super long arms, needs to get a little stronger, lower level in the legs, which I think he'll do once we return to normal and have he has a pro strength and conditioning program. But to me, this will open up and allow for Sam Darnold to develop and progress and see his reads. Yes, they need a receiver, but I think because of the wide receiver depth in this class, they can get one in the 2nd round. So
you mentioned wide receiver. We have not had a wide receiver picked yet. That is certainly Philadelphia fans are going to be looking at that. Why don't we move on to Las Vegas? The Las Vegas Raiders, which is weird, 7-9 a year ago. They were pretty effective offensively. They were ranked 6th according to ESPN, 32nd on the defensive side, though. Where do you see the Raiders picking here? Who do you see the Raiders picking? They're picking at 12.
So that was very good foreshadowing, by the way. Even though he's no longer,
I may or may not have it at a list. I don't know.
So even though Al Davis is no longer with us, this definitely seems like an Al Davis pick. I have the Raiders taking Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver from Alabama. He is 5'11", 188, ran a 4.27 40, which supposedly he and others were very disappointed with. And most people still believe that actually, and supposedly he did not take the 40 time as seriously as others. Because, and there's stories of last year at Alabama's Pro Day, warmed up and ran like a 4.24. So, as you well know, you train to run the 40. And so this guy's really never done that. He's just that fast. He is Tyreek Hill fast. He is a game changer. But unlike Tyreek Hill, he's a far more complete receiver at this stage of his career. For people just to say, "Oh, Ruggs is fast," that's it. That's really not the case. He's a good route runner, not great. He can improve on that, but he is definitely not just straight line speed. He's actually a lot tougher. He'll go over the middle. But as soon as you get him, you open up the entire field because you have to account for that kind of speed. Mm-hmm. We saw even, when in the Super Bowl when Mahomes was struggling, he turned right to Tyreek Hill and changed the game. So I think that's what he gives Vegas.
It's going to be interesting to see him if he falls there with a guy like John Gruden to see how that whole thing progresses. Let's move on. Number 13 from Indianapolis, traded from Indianapolis to San Francisco 49ers, 7-9. This is an interesting pick. There's a lot going on here with the Niners that 13 is very, 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 very talked about right now, I guess is the best way to put it. There's talk that the Niners might trade out because they have a pick later in the first round. Yeah. Where do you see this going?
So as you mentioned, they only have 5 picks right now. So they definitely are open for business. They could supposedly they may trade back from 13. They may even trade back from 13 and 31. So they just want to acquire picks. If they were to keep it, I would draft CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma.
Philadelphia is hating you right now after these 2 picks.
Well, maybe they'll start to like me a little more,
Yeah.
but they never really liked me to begin with. So but that's an entirely separate discussion.
Fair point.
So CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma, 6'2", 198, ran a 4.5 40. This was the key guy for Kyler Murray for Jalen Hurts this year. I think he frankly made Jalen Hurts a guy who may have even gone undrafted to a second-round quarterback. Has a limited route tree, but once he gets the ball in his hands, he is tremendous in terms of after the catch ability. Very physical. If he can put on a show at the combine, just in terms of his hands, it's not going to drop many balls. Interestingly, I have him rated as my second receiver taken, but I think he makes more sense in Kyle Shanahan's scheme, because I believe he's going to set him up at different spots where he's just going to give him the ball and say, go ahead, take off, as opposed to running a more intricate passing system. So that's where I had Lamb going, as opposed to, say, Jerry Jeudy.
Now, if you're the GM here, and I apologize, San Francisco obviously wasn't 7-9; they were in the Super Bowl. Indianapolis was 7-9, which is why they were there. If you are the GM, if you are John Lynch and you have your 15 television monitors, I don't know if you saw that tweet of this whole setup,
it was impressive,
which I really want for my work desk. Are you trading these 2 picks back?
I would trade. You're going to get more of a haul for this one.
Right.
And look, you get, people don't realize DeForest Buckner is a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
And I credit him with taking up enough space that Eric Armstead had the career year he did. It wasn't simply just the presence of Nick Bosa. So, I think I would trade this pick back and keep 31. But the thing is, a lot of people also value those picks real late at the end to grab a quarterback because you want the 5th year in the contract. So, look, if you have 5 picks, I think you need to trade back a little bit. But 13, you're still talking about a blue chip prospect. Yeah. So, and if you have an opportunity to draft, frankly, any of the top 3 wide receivers, I would take them. So, because you lost Emmanuel Sanders.
You did. I like that. I liked him. He did very well for my fantasy football team and led me to a championship. I should retire, but I'm not going to.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Let's move on. Number 14, Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Fighting Tom Brady's 7-9 a year ago. I don't. Where do they go now? This whole thing has changed now that Tom Terrific is in Tampa.
Yeah. Well, look, to me, they're all in. This is not a time to take a pick looking to the future. You need to protect Tom Brady. As we both know, Tom Brady's kryptonite, which frankly is the kryptonite of any quarterback, is a porous offensive line. The guy does not like to get hit. Their offensive tackles are average at best, which is why I have them drafting Josh Jones, offensive tackle from Houston. I think this is about as high as Jones could go. And if I was a Tampa fan, the way that this particular draft plays out, you'd be disappointed because you're hoping to nab one of those top 4 tackles. There's a little bit of a gap between Thomas and Jones. But having said that, he came on very strong in the senior year. And towards the end of the season, he did really well in the Senior Bowl. Is a solid athlete. He's not really going to wow you, but he has a great frame, very athletic frame. I think he's actually going to put on a lot of weight and become more of a road grader. He's real nasty and finishes blocks. So I think that it's a solid pick at this area, and it's someone who's going to help protect Brady. They have 2 really good receivers. They have 2 really good tight ends. So I didn't think they needed to go that route, and their defense is actually quite good.
They're good. They have a good running back too. I mean, there's more serviceable running back. There's more weapons. There's more weapons around Tom Brady now on paper
absolutely
than there was in New England a year ago.
Yeah. So, real quick, their uniform change decent. At least they returned. They returned to the Warren Sapp era.
Yeah.
I would have liked to. To me, I think this is the time to go bold and bring back the creamsicle.
I agree.
But I'll take that as compared to the monstrosity that they were wearing.
The alarm clock numbers. I mean, it's look what they did is slick. I like what they did. I don't mind them keeping the larger logo on the helmet, but going back to that more streamlined look on the jersey and pants. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's move on to 15 to another team that needs to change their uniforms at some point here in the near future, because God damn it, it's not 1995 anymore. The number 15, the Denver Broncos, 7-9 a year ago. They are an interesting team. They're mediocre. I mean, the record says so. Your record says you are what you are, but where do you see Denver go?
I have Denver. If this works out the way it is, they are super happy right now. And I guess emailing or however they're going to be submitting the picks, it's going to be Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. He's actually my wide receiver 1. He is probably the best route runner. Some people have said he's the best route runner as compared with Odell Beckham. That's how good of the route runner he is. Yeah. He's been great for several years now. He is just he's a tactician, loves the craft, doesn't rely on athleticism. He really relies on setting you up and all of that. I would say the two things that worry me with Jerry Jeudy, and keep in mind, I still have him as my wide receiver 1. Some people say, look, as compared to other top wide receivers, he doesn't splash at elite athleticism. If you look at the other top receivers, all of them have at least one component of their game is some level of elite athleticism. That's the argument. And Jerry Jeudy doesn't necessarily have that. Even though, he actually ran, I believe it was like a 4.45 40. So that's a lot faster than you and I.
Yeah,
so.
that's athletic to me. I mean,
but and look at it. If he joins Denver, now you have a really nice offense. Drew Lock played really well towards the end of the year. Cortland Sutton emerged as a top wide receiver. Pair him there. Now you're going to take some of the pressure off him. They had Phillip Lindsay. And now they added Melvin Gordon. I don't really know if they needed him, but he's still a good piece to have.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And because Josh Jones was gone here, I thought it wasn't necessarily the spot for an offensive lineman. So it's the way the board fell.
Right.
But I think they'd be really happy to have Jerry Jeudy at 15.
This is where you get into your interesting spot when it comes to Thursday night in the first round. This is where the real strategy comes into play, and this is where pieces are going to be moved. We're obviously not doing fantasy trades here. We don't know that, but this is where you're going to see pieces start to move. Let's move on. Number 16, 7-9, the Atlanta Falcons, offensively, number 12, 24 on the defense, number 32 on the uniform. What the hell was that? Since we're talking uniforms, the Falcons had a great opportunity, similar to Tampa, to bring back an older look. And did they miss that thing or what? They're like an arena. It's an arena league team.
Yeah, it's really bad, particularly the one that fades from black to red.
Oh, it's awful. And look, I think the red jersey was always their best look to me.
Yeah.
To do that goofy thing like Texas Tech in NCAA 14, it's not good.
No, there's nothing good to be said about that uniform change. No. It's quite frustrating. But having said that,
so what poor schmuck is going to wear that uniform?
Well, I dare you to call Javon Kinlaw, D tackle from South Carolina, a poor schmuck.
That's a good point. He'll be a very rich schmuck after that point who can kick my ass.
Exactly. Anyone who's 6'5", 324. I want to say it was Connor Rogers from Bleacher Report called him a bull in a china shop. And I think that's a great description for Javon Kinlaw, and B, a great description to have for a defensive tackle. You just want someone who is going to create havoc in from guard to guard. I think he has more prowess as a pass rusher than as compared with Derrick Brown, who went number 8 to the Cardinals in this mock draft, but he doesn't play on the same consistent level, which is why, to me, I have him as the second defensive tackle. There's times where he disappears a little bit. Not really effort. It's just, I don't know if it's just he's relying so much on the strength, forgets his technique. But there's times when where you see Derrick Brown pop in a game, a South Carolina game, Javon Kinlaw sometimes is a little bit quieter. And really, that's the only reason I had him as defensive tackle too. But here, pairing him up with Grady Jarrett, you still have Tack McKinley on the outside. They brought in Dante Fowler. That could be a nice little, front four, on passing downs for Atlanta. So there you have it.
Let's move on to nobody's favorite team, 17, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Hopefully at this point they don't have a quarterback, but whatever. That is what it is. Who do you have the Cowboys taking? A mediocre Dallas team. Screw them. I'm like,
it's funny.
I try not to be a homer about it, but
okay.
sometimes you just have to.
That's all right. Look, to me, you guys have pretty much owned them for the last several years. So, you have the rights to make fun of them as much as you want. So I have them taking Chaisson from LSU. He is, frankly, I think he will be really good for that team. So he was actually, I think you may know, LSU, you have to be voted to wear the number 18.
Yeah.
It's kind of, there's a few teams like Temple, the single digits are a big deal. Michigan, there's, I forget which number it is for Michigan. It's in the 90s, I think.
I think so, yeah.
98? Is it 98?
It might
Something
be.
like that. But so LSU's is number 18, and it's a big deal when you're voted to have that. And this guy had the honor. He's a redshirt sophomore, still young.
That's crazy.
Super young, but very talented. And I think if you pair him up with DeMarcus Lawrence, it'll be a nice pass rush for them. Did a really nice job against some of the top talent. He is super long, but he's still able to dip and bend, get around the corner. I think as he continues to grow into his body, and B, continues to just learn the craft, he's going to be a very good player. So, unfortunately, I hate to tell all Philadelphia, New York, and Washington fans, I think this would be a very good get for the Cowboys.
I agree with you, and that's unfortunate. Let's move. Next couple picks are teams that have already drafted, so they're coming into their second pick of the first round.
Yeah,
I think these are some teams where you can look at maybe trade possibilities. Let's go first with number 18, Miami.
Yeah, so Miami, I have them taking Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. Let's talk about this kid's only 20 years old, and I think if you watch his tape, it's really it's almost unfair to judge him. I'm not sure if you heard the story. He actually in the offseason prior to last year, donated bone marrow to his sister. So he wasn't able to participate in the strength and conditioning. So particularly imagine as a 19-year-old missing out on a summer of strength and conditioning before going to play D1 football. So I really think that, people who are commenting on his lack of strength, you're not recognizing he missed out on a crucial time that he's now going to be able to recapture in the pros. So, but having said that, still super athletic, 6'5", 322, 5'07", 40, has a great frame. He's a true left tackle. Some of the other guys previously that we mentioned have played right tackle. He is a true left tackle build. And once he gets stronger, I think the ceiling is as high as some of those others. It's just right now the floor is a lot lower. But with Miami, to me, this is a multi-year build. Why not just get a guy who has a lot of upside, super young, and so to me, it makes a lot of sense.
Sure, if you're going to take Tua up at you're going to find a guy to protect him.
Yeah, and frankly, if Tua, he's probably going to redshirt. He's going to redshirt anyways.
Right.
Essentially, so. Yeah.
Let's move on. Number 19, we're going to go back to the Fighting John Grudens, the Las Vegas Raiders. Who do you have the Vegas Raiders taking?
I have the Vegas Raiders. That's another weird one to say.
It is very, very odd.
Yeah. AJ Terrell, cornerback from Clemson. Mike Mayock, you probably saw it in last year's draft, except for Max Crosby, who came from Eastern Michigan, who I loved as a rookie. He loved guys from Clemson and Alabama. He actually took AJ Terrell's teammate last year, Trayvon Mullen. So now he gets to just team him up with his old teammate. AJ Terrell has the new age size, length, speed of a cornerback. He had a great first half in the national championship game against LSU. Then he had to deal with Jamar Chase, who is a guy who we will be talking about at length several years from now as the top wide receiver. Would have been the top wide receiver in this draft. That's how good he is. And people, kind of crap on AJ Terrell for that performance. To me, there's really nothing you could do at that point. The defensive line wasn't getting home. And whatever, people had some bad outings. Having said that, he has the traits that you like as a mid to late first round cornerback. Very good hips for a guy his size, willing tackler, and this really shores up a need. And you're teaming him with his old teammates, so I think it makes a lot of sense. And Mayock just really likes those big program guys because they've been guys like who playing Clemson, playing the SEC. They've been dealing with this kind of talent for 4 years, and they've been playing in atmospheres that are frankly even more daunting than a pro atmosphere and in big games. So it makes sense.
Nobody will be playing in an atmosphere like that when they go to Jacksonville at number 20.
Also, frankly, nobody's going to be playing in any atmospheres. So
well, that's a good point too. Nobody's going to be around anybody, but that's besides the point. It's not official yet. Number 20, the Jags up with their second pick of the first round. Who do you have them slotted here? Who do you have?
I have them with this pick. You have 2 picks in the first round. To me, this is where it makes sense to take Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. I don't know if I'm a believer in Gardner Minshew. I admire the guy. I liked what I saw. I don't know if those skills necessarily translate into developing a perennially competitive team. Justin Herbert is probably the most polarizing. Justin Herbert and then Jordan Love, probably the 2 most polarizing prospects in this year's draft. The guy has all the measurables, 6'6", 236, ran a 4.68.
6'6", wow.
Yeah. 4.68 is faster than Wentz.
Yeah.
So, look, he's one of these guys, looks great in shorts, and also, sometimes looks great from quarters 1 to 3.5. And he also, to his credit, had a very good Pac-12 championship performance against a very strong Utah defense. Played well against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, despite, by the way, Wisconsin's excellent kick returner, who now is playing for certain Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
If they play football this year.
Yeah, or whenever they play football again, he will return. But he will be their returner.
Maybe.
So our next Janarian Grant. Nevertheless, Justin Herbert at certain times just makes befuddling throws. And yes, that's right. I said befuddling. So it's my word of the day, and I got it in there. So you shake your head. He also does not deal with pressure well. And the other thing that is an issue with him, he grew up literally like 3 blocks from the campus at Oregon. He's never left home.
It's a little
people
weird.
think he was afraid to come out last year because he didn't want to go to New York and deal with the big lights there. So is there a personality issue? Now, look, Eli Manning was quiet, and so is Justin Herbert, but I don't know if this guy has the fire. That's what a lot of people question. To me, that's why you push him down to 20. If he was the guy who played all 4 quarters really well, he's probably your first pick because in shorts, he beats Burrow and Tua every day. He's got the stronger arm. He's more athletic, but just makes throws where you're like, what is he doing? And throws that sometimes he gets away with them at the college level. You're not going to get away with those at the pro level. But at 20, I think, and look, pro coaches are going to look, give me an opportunity with this kid. I'll coach him up. He'll be fine. But you notice I wasn't going to put him with a team like the Raiders because I don't think he could deal with a guy like Gruden.
Not many people can.
Now, Marrone is a tough guy, but I kind of thought, all right, Jacksonville, quieter, just,
nobody's really
nurturing
paying attention.
front office. No one's paying attention. Yeah, that was my thought.
They have hot tubs up in the stadium. It's not what it once was.
How do you sit in a pool and watch a football game?
How do you sit in a pool and watch a baseball game too? I mean, it's
that's right. Is that Arizona?
Arizona. It's one of those questions that I don't know. How do you sit in a hot tub? Period.
Everyone's like, look, we need to enhance the game day experience. Growing up, yes, I'm sorry, all you Philadelphia fans. I grew up going to Giant games, as I still do. I enjoyed being uncomfortable. Part of the experience is the discomfort and having to get through that. We dealt with that at Rutgers. That's why we got seat cushions.
It's like Veteran Stadium. Veteran Stadium was a dump.
Yes.
Giant Stadium was a dump. RFK was a dump. All these places, but they had character. Then there was the one in Dallas. Let's move on. Big pick here for this program. Yes. For this program here, Sports Talk Philly. You see it up in the corner at 21. The Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you have them picking?
Philly fans, look, I took care of you guys. The board fell very well. You now are going to have Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. And if I were an Eagles fan, I would be ecstatic with this pick. 6'1", 202, ran an excellent 4.43 combine. Most of the guys, I remember Daniel Jeremiah, Jeremiah has taken the spot of Mayock on the NFL Network. When he was talking about Justin Jefferson as he was getting lined up to run the 40, he's like, look, he's not going to run that fast, but I'm telling you, he's really good. And then he's like, see, look, he ran a 4.43. It's fine. So and then he's like, oh, yeah, because he definitely ran a lot faster than anticipated. The guy moved to the slot, and he became Joe Burrow's safety blanket, and he will be Carson Wentz's safety blanket. He is a dramatic upgrade over Nelson Aguilar. Dramatic.
Look, my trash can's a dramatic upgrade over Nelson Aguilar at this point. And I appreciate everything Nelson Aguilar did for the Eagles, but look, at this juncture,
but he is a legitimate upgrade. Right. You had to go wide receiver here. You did luck out that Jefferson's still available. You could have gone linebacker. There's two really good linebackers who I'm foreshadowing a little bit who are drafted coming up soon that I think would have looked really good in the, I guess, what is it, the midnight green? I prefer to say Kelly green. It just sounds better too. But it's not the uniform anymore. By the way, really quick, because you guys won a Super Bowl in these uniforms,
they're here.
So you can't touch them. They're you have an emotional attachment to them now?
I don't have an emotional attachment to it. If you're asking me, I say that you go back to the Kelly green and silver. But there's an argument that can be made that you can't get rid of them now.
Yeah,
exactly. I just think they should add silver pants, and that would make it look a little bit different. Look, if this was the pick the Eagles were going to make, I like it. But you're going to find out my complete opinion on it tonight on our live show at 9:30 p.m. We have Paul Bowman from Sports Talk Philly coming on. We're going to discuss it then, what the Eagles should do. So I'm going to leave you with that little bit of a little nugget there. What do they call that? A lead or something like that.
No, that was very good. Yeah, but real quick, so they could go linebacker. I also thought maybe this might be a place to take the local boys, Cesar Ruiz, because you could draft Jason Kelsey's replacement.
Right, which they need to do. At
some point they're going to need to do. Right. Unfortunately, that happens with everybody. So there you have it, Philly fans. You don't hate me completely
as much. Let's move on. 22 Minnesota. Let's move on. 22 Minnesota Vikings. Who you got?
I have them replacing Xavier Rhodes and taking Jeff Gladney, cornerback, TCU. This guy, 5'10", 191, ran a 4.48. For those of you that may remember, he is very much of the mold of a former TCU cornerback, Jason Verrett, who unfortunately just cannot stay healthy. It was really good. This guy is a press cover, is a little shorter, but literally just will stick to you like glue. To me, Xavier Rhodes was someone who I thought was going to be one of the next great corners, and his game just fell off a cliff. I don't think you need to replace Xavier Rhodes to have the exact same kind of player. Just get a great cover guy, because that's the one thing Rhodes could not do last year, was cover anyone. So to me, Gladney is the best of the remaining guys in terms of just straight coverage, which is why he's going to Minnesota.
Moving on, number 23. I couldn't tell you the last time that I've seen this team draft number 23 without making a trade. The New England Patriots. This is kind of weird, a weird spot for them. Who do you have the Patriots taking?
I have the Patriots.
Hold on, before we get into that, the uniform is awful.
Terrible, disgraceful.
We're uniform guys, as we've mentioned. Everybody's uniform here. The Patriots had a unique opportunity here. Sure, they could have gone to the throwback, but they could have done something a little bit different.
They look like they're just giving up. Brady's gone. We're just gonna look like shit. It's
they're upgrading their color rush uniform to the main uniform. It looks awful.
Makes me want to rush to the bathroom.
Someone posted a picture of the Replacements, the movie The Replacement, and I was like, wow, that's what it does look like. It's awful, horrible.
Maybe they should have Shane Falco.
Yeah, they should. Who's going to wear the horrible? Who's going to wear the horrible uniform?
Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end from
like that pick.
That team from Pennsylvania, also known as Penn State. As much as I don't like Penn State, he's an excellent player. 6'5", 266, great length. I see a bit of Jason Pierre-Paul in him, but I also think he's a little quicker. You know, remember Pierre-Paul was just that long strider, where he has a little bit of better feet, and I also think he has better. He's much further along, actually, in terms of from a skill set perspective than Pierre-Paul at this point. You look at the Patriots. Think of the guys who have walked out the door in terms of pass rush. John Jones' brother, Chandler Jones, and you had Trey Flowers. This team is now going to have to win football games 13-10 each week. So you have to build up that defense, and you got to add pass rush. And this is the kind of guy who really makes sense. And he's from all reports also a really good guy, good teammate, smart guy. So it makes sense that's the Patriots. To succeed in New England, you have to have that. So
let me just say I like this pick.
Yeah,
not necessarily with the university, but I like this pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it at that. Let's move on. 24. Who do you have New Orleans taking?
So I have New Orleans taking Kenneth Murray, middle linebacker from Oklahoma, 6'2", 241, ran a 4.52, tackling machine, tremendous athlete, incredible range, side to side. I know that Drew Brees this is probably his last year. To me, I understand you always want to have the replacement on your team. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's Taysom Hill. Maybe that's another quarterback like Jordan Love. But to me, they've been so close and have lost these ridiculous games to the Vikings and to the Rams in the playoffs. You have to go all in. Get yourself the best player available. They got Emmanuel Sanders in the offseason, which I thought was a great addition.
Yeah, like that.
To me, I think upgrading middle linebacker, having more speed is really good. I also think they did a tremendous job of getting rid of Eli Apple, which is addition by subtraction. So don't get me started. I just had to throw that in there.
There you go. Minnesota. Who do you have the Vikings taking?
So, when they traded away Stephon Diggs, they had a glaring need of wide receiver. I have him taking Denzel Mims, wide receiver from Baylor. What I think he brings initially is speed. He's a height, weight, speed guy. He's faster than Stephon Diggs. Ran a 4.38 at 6'3", 207. So initially, he is going to open up the offense for Adam Thielen in the intermediate. Because Thielen isn't really known necessarily as a deep threat.
Right.
He's, you can put him inside, works the middle of the field, a lot of slants, and also the out patterns and everything of that nature. But I think that's the first area Denzel Mims helps out. Also, because he has a great catch radius, it'll help when those days when Kirk Cousins is a little off. Because those when he's throwing all over the place, you're going to need a guy. Not saying he's Plexico Burress, but a guy with big wingspan, big catch radius. So to me, Denzel Mims brings that. He had came on at the end of the season for Matt Rule, had a great Senior Bowl week, and then also was tremendous in the combine. So that is the story with Denzel Mims.
I'm going to edit this part out because I got to go to the bathroom. Hold on a second.
I'll try to hurry up for the rest of them.
No, you're good. Thank God for editing skills. Woo. I'll kind of lead you through it. All right. We were at Denzel Mims. I'm going to take a pause and I'll move into 26 and I can tinker with this. I agree with you. 25. You got to make some replacements there in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins needs a guy to throw the ball to. Move on. Let's go. Miami. Another draft pick for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
This is probably that trade out area, but Dolphins are going to sit here. Who do you have them taking at 26?
I have them taking a local guy, St. Joe's Prep Zone, DeAndre Swift, running back from Georgia.
Yep.
He is my top running back. Frankly, I believe he's a top 15 prospect. I just simply do not value the running back position as highly. I don't believe you need to draft them in the top 15, even though how amazing Saquon is and Christian McCaffrey and some of these other top guys. DeAndre Swift could easily be among the best in the league. He is the next in the line of great Georgia running backs from Gurley, Chubb, Sony Michel. Very just well-rounded, very good in the passing game, can run outside the tackles, inside the tackles, sets up his blocks really well, is explosive. He has that extra gear when needed, will not shy away from contact, but is also elusive. He's really just that all-around back that Miami would love to have when building. You have your quarterback, your offensive tackle, and your running back for the next several years. So to me, that one just makes sense.
Agreed with you that running back is not valued. It's not a value pick anymore, or it is a value pick, I should say. It's not an elite pick anymore.
Yeah.
Look, I like this pick. I like this pick for Miami. The Eagles don't need him. So move on. 27. Seattle. This one, I when you sent this to me, my exact reaction was wow. So who do you have?
Yeah, well, frankly, I don't know why you have it as a wow, because this guy honestly could go anywhere from around pick 15 to the early second round. So I have Cesar Ruiz, center from Michigan, Camden, New Jersey native, played his high school ball at Camden High School for his first 2 years, then transferred down to IMG Academy before going to play with Michigan as opposed to his former local state university, but probably a good move on his end.
I would say
he is the top interior offensive lineman. If a team needs him to play guard, he could. But this is a kid who, I'm sure you remember back when, as we follow high school kids in this area, this kid was always playing center.
Yeah.
So and when scouts write about him, they really talk about his advanced skills with respect to ability to get the snap to the quarterback, get his hands in place, his feet where they need to be. Really, just a tactician in terms of being a center. I think he really only struggles with the strongest of nose tackles, but frankly, most centers do. And most centers also don't have his kind of size and girth. If you think about Garrett Bradbury was the top center last year. It didn't have the size of Ruiz, 6'3", 307. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah. So, always happy for, Camden County kids, former Olympic Conference, now local, West Jersey football, local boy.
Local product.
Yeah, local product. So, happy for him. And if you look at it with Seattle's offense really is, as much as it's about Russell Wilson, it's about pounding the ball with Carson and then Rashad Penny to take and to set up the play action to that monster DK Metcalf. And so, that's a big boy. But so to have a strong center like Ruiz, you have DJ Fluker, who's a gigantic human being, Dwayne Brown, some other just big, strong guys in that offensive line. To me, that just it fits exactly what they want to do. So I think it'd be a good pick, and wherever he goes, I wish him well. So
agreed. Let's move on. 28, Baltimore Ravens. Who do you have the Ravens taking here at 28?
I have Baltimore taking a guy. This guy is a better football player than an athlete. He's a really good football player. AJ Epinesa.
Really like that pick.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I don't know if he's a defensive tackle or a defensive end.
Well, that's why I put in defensive line, because I don't know what he is either.
So, I mean, he weighed in, he was 6'5", 275. But, I mean, go down to Baltimore and eat some of those crabs and all the other, the pit beef? He could be 295 before you know it.
Yeah.
He's got to stay away from that ESPN zone, right?
Yeah, don't go to the ESPN zone. Stay away
the
from
pizza's not too good.
Stay away from stay away from the natty bow. You don't want any of that stuff. Like, I like this guy. I like this guy as a player. We got to see him in the Big Ten over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And really good player. I thought maybe the best defensive player in the conference at one point.
Yeah.
But he's a tweener in the National Football League. It's one of those things, see what happens with him.
He's a tweener, but if there's a team that could, that just is able to fit guys into spots and define roles for players, Baltimore is one of those teams, both defensively and offensively. I think he could help create a little bit of a pass rush. They have Matt Judon, who they franchised. Let's see if they trade. I don't think they're going to trade him, but either way, he's not there for many years. They drafted Jalen Ferguson, hasn't really developed that much yet. This guy is only going to help, whether it's from the interior or exterior. This is just a good football player, and frankly, not going to a good football team. Right. And this is one of the most talented rosters in the league. So, yeah.
Number 29, Tennessee Titans. Who do you have the Titans taking?
So this one, my father would be very excited. This is Isaiah Wilson, offensive tackle from Georgia. He's a Brooklyn boy. Attended Poly Prep, where I actually have a cousin who stars on the lacrosse team. Is also the alma mater of the player who I wore my first. Do you remember my first number for the Raiders, the Bad Raiders year? For those that don't know, Mike and I played 5 years together in Pop Warner. So I was not 70. It was in the 70s. 77.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Lousiville,
that's right. Yeah.
And he died later that year, which I don't know if that was good luck for me, but nevertheless, I'm sorry about that. Lousiville, rest in peace.
I wore 99 one year, so
You did. So, but yes, Isaiah Wilson from Poly Prep was one of the top recruits in the nation. Went down to Georgia, is a mammoth right tackle, shooting up the boards. 6'6", 350 pounds. Ran a 5.32, but his 10-yard split was just as fast as Mekhi Becton's and Jedrick Will's. So, look, you don't need a 6'6", 350-pound tackle running 40 yards. The 10-yard split is obviously more indicative of the athleticism that he needs to get the job done. The only guy he ever struggled with, from what I've seen, was Chaisson, who I had going to the Cowboys. Other than that, he's a road grader. And look at Tennessee. Who did they lose to free agency? Jack Conklin, their right tackle. This guy steps in. And by the way, do you know who is currently slated to start at right tackle for Tennessee?
Dennis
Kelly.
Wow.
Yes, Philly fans, Dennis Kelly. So Isaiah Wilson would be an upgrade.
Yeah.
Tennessee is the kind of team with Derrick Henry. They want to. I think that there are teams in the AFC that are going to try. It's like the arms race. With Kansas City, they're going to say, look, we're going to have to try to score 50 points every game, bro. Something, absurd like that. Tennessee, and you saw it work at least for a quarter and a half against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, where it's smash mouth football, control the line of scrimmage, pound Derrick Henry, keep the score low, and just, eat up the clock. And Isaiah Wilson effectuate, and he helps, accomplish those that style of football. So that's why I think this is end of the first round, early second rounds, where Isaiah Wilson's going to come off the board. So that's where I have him.
Packers picking at number 30. Who do you have the Green Bay Packers taking here?
I have him taking Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for Arizona State. Also, I refer to Arizona State as the Fighting Hermes.
Yeah, the Fighting Hermes.
The Fighting Hermes. 6 feet, 205, ran a 4.5. Supposedly he had an injury after the season training. He recovered for the combine. Some people think that had he had a pro day, would have ran a little better. This is a guy who is similar to CeeDee Lamb, electric with the ball in his hands. And really, this was just the next highest rated receiver. Green Bay desperately needs to have somebody else. They need the Robin to Devontae Adams being Batman. You know, they just because Geronimo Allison, Derrick Lazar, those guys, good players, role players. They're not a legitimate wide receiver too. Brandon Ayuk can really help out that offense and further open up the running game, which was really starting to come along last year with Aaron Jones. So, yep. So that's where I have the Packers going.
31, San Francisco 49ers, defending National Football Conference champions. Who do you got the Niners taking here at 31?
Well,
their actual pick.
Yes. So assuming they don't trade out, I have them taking Jalen Johnson, cornerback, Utah. Frankly, if you read the scouting reports, AJ Terrell and Trevon Diggs, cornerback from Alabama, almost interchangeable. It really is just more like, who do you like? I think that Johnson, as compared with Diggs, is further along from the cornerback skill set, which is why I had him as opposed to Diggs for this pick. But very similar to AJ Terrell in that build, 6 feet, 193. This guy, this guy is a very willing tackler. He likes to get his nose in, very good with run support, which San Francisco is just a fast physical defense. Mm-hmm. So I think that makes sense. And Richard Sherman's not getting any younger. So
that is true. I forgot he was there.
Yeah.
32, the Kansas City Chiefs, world champion Kansas City Chiefs, the Fighting Andy Reids. Who do you have the Chiefs taking at 32, assuming they pick here?
Yeah. So congrats to Big Red on finally getting the ring.
Finally.
He's definitely a guy who the entire league likes and respects. And it was, glad that he got it. I have him going Patrick Queen, linebacker from LSU, 6 feet, 229, ran a 4.5. Can play outside linebacker, could probably play middle linebacker in a pinch. Just a great playmaker with exceptional range. This guy really, towards the end of the season, came on, was making all the interceptions. Whenever there was a big play made by LSU, it seemed like it was this guy. And he was really like the leader on that team, aside from Chaisson. I think he has really good ability to cover tight ends and running backs. And I think that, look, it's an embarrassment of riches with that Kansas City roster. I've heard the reports that if Ruggs falls, that they may trade up and try to get him. I don't see Ruggs getting anywhere close enough. They could go interior offensive line, maybe a Cesar Ruiz or the next rated center. But if you look at the guys they've had there previously, I don't think they value it enough. They could also go running back, but I think that they could pick up someone later in the draft for that. And finally, they could also go defensive tackle. Their top D tackle, Chris Jones, was franchised. It's probably unlikely that he's going to be on that team for longer than 1 year. But again, I don't necessarily know if there's a D tackle in this range that makes sense when you have a player of Patrick Queen's ability out there right now. So there you have it.
There you have it. There are the 32. We will revisit this after the draft to see how right you were. If trades happen, it happens. Let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
But you did ask me, you said, hey, you want some sleepers? And I said, absolutely. So let's run through these real quick. These are your late round sleepers. Give everyone the kind of the criteria and who they are.
So the sleepers are anyone who will be third round or below. They're players that caught my eyes for various reasons. I told Mike I would give him one at each position level, or each position group, excuse me. The first one at quarterback is Cole McDonald from Hawaii, 6'3", 215. Actually ran a 4.58, which is that's pretty fast. This guy, he's kind of like a wild man. They were commenting he actually cut his hair for the combine, which may have made him run faster. As a football junkie, there's nothing better when you've had a great day of games and you finally come home and there's still that 2 a.m. Hawaii game. And, so I think he's a guy who, if a coach tries to bring him in and do a little bit of the read option, I think that he has a chance to stick in a roster. Running back, I have Michael Warren, Cincinnati, 5'9", 226. This guy is just a bulldozer in between the tackles. I really like that running style. And I think that each team has a need for that third running back. Not flashy or anything, but, when there's injuries, you just need that guy who is comfortable to run between the tackles. And to me, that's Michael Warren. The guy I really like coming out of Cincinnati, which is a program I has killed Rutgers over the years back when in the Big East. The next one is for wide receiver, another local guy. I always will try to highlight local guys just for pride of Delaware Valley and also New Jersey high school football. Juwan Johnson, who is technically from Oregon. He went to Penn State. He is the brother of George Johnson, who was a defensive end for Rutgers, played in the NFL for 8 years. Graduate of Glassboro High School, 6'4", 230, ran like a 4.58. He has a huge catch radius. He struggles a little bit with drops. He's known as one of the best run blockers, though. And to me, a guy who's that willing to be a run blocker, I think that combined with perhaps some special teams, you could stick on a roster. Yeah. So tight end, I have Dalton Keene from Virginia Tech. I love my H-backs. It's like one of those positions that is underappreciated, but those guys always just make things happen. This guy, he just sneakily would always make a big play here and there for a Virginia Tech team that has seen its better days, still has one of the best college football entrances of all time. But yeah, 6'4", 253, 4'7", great motor, good hands, just finds his way to fight for the first down. But position flexibility for sleepers, I think, for people who are going to be drafted 4th round through 7th round, flexibility is key. And so this guy, the traditional H-back. So that's why I really like him. Offensive line, I have Jonah Jackson, guard from Ohio State. For those that don't know, he was back in the day when we were we're loyal followers of Scarlet Nation, which is a website that used to be under the Rivals umbrella, now under 24/7. The Rivals rankings had Jonah Jackson as a 2-star coming out of Pennsbury. And to his credit, this guy got every ounce of athleticism, strength, and capability out of his body. Was a captain. I believe he was a captain for Rutgers.
He was a captain.
And then, yeah. And
made a smart move by leaving to go to Ohio State.
I think it was it kind of wasn't the unwritten word was that, I think he was upset over Blazek leaving.
Yeah.
The offensive line coach who took a job at North Dakota State. And he went to Ohio State, was named a captain, which really shows you the kind of leadership skills the guy had. And immediately was just entrenched as one of the starting guards. And he also, again, position versatility because he played a little bit of center at Rutgers. I think this is a guy who's going to stick in the league. Agreed. He's a 5th round, 6th round guy, but he's always managed to overcome any athletic deficiencies with just hard work. And he's a good football player. So, I wish him the best. And he's definitely getting drafted 5th, 6th round. So, defensive line, I had Khalil Davis. This guy blew it out. Knocked it out of the park in the combine. 6'1", 308, ran a 4.75. That's ridiculous. And to me, look, I'm not one of those guys, I'm not saying that every guy who's good in the combine is going to be a great player. But you have those kind of numbers and a coach can somehow channel it. You have the potential in a later round for a good player. Mm-hmm. And to me, he's got that build. He could be a very disruptive 3 technique. I actually think his best football is still ahead of him. So that's why I had him as my defensive line sleeper. Linebacker is an interesting one. Shaq Quarterman from Miami.
Great name.
Now, great name. This kid, after his freshman and sophomore year, when Miami was playing a little bit better when Rick first got there, this was a guy who, I would talk. My cousin is a diehard Miami fan, and I would talk to him about. People were saying that surefire first rounder, the next great Miami linebacker. I don't know if his game fell off a cliff, if the surrounding talent didn't help him out. Look, Miami had a very rough year. He's kind of slotted in the 4th to 6th round. He's not quite the athlete as the great Miami linebackers of the past, but this guy is a heady football player and great IQ and likes to stick his nose in. I think a team that takes a chance on him in the later rounds is going to have a solid player who may eventually be a starter. So that's why I had Shaq Quarterman. And last but certainly not least,
I like this
defensive back had to go Harrison Hand, Cherry Hill West alum.
Yep.
He would be so. Mike, am I correct? He would be the first Cherry Hill resident since Avon Coburn.
Probably
in the NFL.
Not that
and the first Cherry Hill Public School alum since Glenn Foley.
Yeah, since what, 89, 90?
93.
Oh, 93. Okay. I was making him older than he was. Glenn Foley's going to get angry at me.
93. Yeah, 93. Because he and Coughlin both left at the same time.
And I am still firmly convinced. Nobody can tell me differently. He's a D-back here, but Harrison Hand is one of the most versatile offensive players I've ever seen in a high school football field. That's just my opinion from my position, 25 yards downfield as a field judge.
And he led them to the playoffs for the first time in how many years?
Forever, maybe.
Yeah. So look, but yeah, so initially went to Baylor, then transferred back home to Temple. I think that you saw him continue to grow as a player. Now, yeah, okay, people are going to say, all right, yeah, but it's Temple, it's the American Conference, it's not, the Big 12. But look, Temple players have, to their credit, done very well in the pros. Ioannidis, Sean Chandler, the safety who's up with the Giants, many others. I think that Harrison Hand is definitely getting drafted. Very good athlete. I think he's probably better suited for a zone defense. But, Cherry Hill West guy, I had to mention him. By the way, did you know that he is cousins with Turk McBride?
I did not, but
yes.
For
those that do not know, Turk McBride was part of the state champion Woodrow Wilson team of 2002. Then went on to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is enough of my geekdom for one evening.
I like it. and we appreciate you coming on. And like I said, we're going to have a follow-up to this after the draft. It kind of settles down. We can take a look at everything. In the meantime, this is going to be, you're going to see this up there, YouTube exclusive. We'll see you on Tuesday morning with this. Be sure to catch us Tuesday night for the live show, 9:30 on Facebook. The new logo reveal coming before that, which you have seen. We're going to have Paul Bowman from Sports Talk Philly. We're going to talk Eagles draft specifically. There is an article that will be dropping today on Sports Talk Philly. The 10 Eagles busts not named Mike Mamula, because anyone who still thinks Mike Mamula is a bust, you are an idiot. And I am writing that article, and we're going to discuss that as well. We appreciate you coming on. Be sure to follow the show, Section 247 show at SEC 247 show everywhere. Again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We're going
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're gonna do some more draft stuff and more football stuff, and we will catch you down the road.